Okay, it seems to be 10 o'clock, and I'm Laura Ritter, and I'm chairperson of the, it's, what am I, chairperson of the Parks and Shade Tree Commission? And I'd like to call the January 27 meeting of our commission to order, and we usually start with roll call, and please introduce yourself.
Carolyn Dievendorfer, present.
Marty Marino.
Our other two members are absent due to illness and inability to be present, but we do have a quorum, and so we will move forward. I would like to introduce our attorney, Lauren DeLuca, and also this is the first meeting with our new city arborist, Mike Lilly, and he is here. And are you representing the applicants? Is there someone here representing the applicants?
We are the applicants.
Okay. Would you like a copy of this most recent? These are the most recent documents.
Thank you.
Due to some confusion over the documents, not all of those documents were included in the public notice of this meeting. So we are going to go forward with the meeting anyway because everyone's already here and the meeting was noticed. But if you have any questions or concerns, those are the public documents that we are using to go forward with. This meeting is an appeal of the city arborist decision of December 30th, is that it?
December 19th.
December 19th, regarding the three trees in the front of the property. Okay, so we do have your appeal, and unfortunately, it doesn't really state the specific reason for your appeal. Would you like to come forward to the whatever these are, microphones to explain to us the reason for your appeal? We have to have a reason for your appeal for us to decide one way or another.
Well, first, I'd like to introduce ourselves. I'm Elizabeth and James Trilling, and we reside at 70 Kent Street. Our family has owned the house for over 50 years, and my parents love the lot because of all the trees, and we reside across from a park, which, as far as we know, cannot ever be built upon. So we have a good rapport with our neighbors. Anyway, the house had always been a vacation, like in the summer we would go down. But we sold our house in Maryland and we moved to Delaware to reside in the house almost 4 years ago. And since we've been there, we've had 3 sewer backups in our house. The first one happened when we were not living there. We came for a visit and had, you know, nice present that we had. We had to go through our insurance company, blah, blah, blah. And they determined when they roto-rooted the sewer that there were tree roots in it. 2 years later, we had all of our family here, and we had another backup, which is kind of embarrassing when you have company here and we hear the sewer backed up again, and when they roto-rooted it, again, they've had found tree roots in it. We've decided, because our family has grown, we moved in to downsize, and now we're upgrading again. We are putting an addition, a 2-story addition on the back of the house, and we do have to have a new sewer line put in because our sewer line is the original terracotta, and it's a little bit smaller than the new ones. So we have 3 trees in the front, which are having issues with the roots in the sewer system. So when we have our new sewer system put in, most likely, when they dig to put a new system in, they're going to go into the trees and cut the roots. And eventually, from what we've been told, the trees will probably die sooner than later. So we are trying to just have them removed now so we can just go on as planned. And I guess that's all. Is there?
I mean, basically, the way the sewer line and the trees are, it goes right through it. So when the construction company that we've hired is doing the rebuild on our house, is gonna have to tear everything up right where the trees are, where the roots are. And that's gonna be, I'm sure that's gonna be a concern, but we have to replace the sewer. There's no ands if buts about it, because it's the original sewer is our understanding, from the terracotta piping and all that kind of stuff. And having it cleaned out by the Roto-Rooter company every time it happened or every couple of years is really inconvenience, because you never know when it's going to happen. And all we want to do is go forward and try to get it replaced, and to remove the trees so we don't have the issue before. Because with the plans on the construction, we're trying to shift everything, the driveway over where the trees are, and a underground propane tank is being installed, and that's gonna go where the driveway is, because we have limited space. We can't put anything in the back because we have more trees in the back, along the property lines and everything. So that's pretty much where we're at. We're just asking the committee to please let us remove the trees. I understand with heritage trees and the importance of having trees and everything, and we have over a dozen trees on our property. It's just trying to get these removed so we can get the sewer done, never have to worry about it down the road about tree roots hitting the sewer, and then be able to move on with our construction remodel, which is what is happening right now.
Okay.
We have a plan to add new trees, new trees when the house is completed in both the front and the backyard. We like trees. I want trees in my front yard.
No,
I mean, we wanted to tear down the house completely. At the start, the whole
Years ago.
issue was to tear it down completely, and we couldn't do that because of the trees, and it wouldn't be allowed. And we're like, okay, so now, the whole point of the construction company going forward, they said we would have to tear the house down, remove it before the committee or the city says we're gonna approve it or not. So if that's not approved, then we just tore a house down and we have nothing. We would have an absolutely empty lot. So that's why we decided to go forward and do the remodel as the print of the house is. Add on to the back, we can't go very far because of the trees, and we can't go farther out into the front because of the trees, but we went to where the existing porch was, within the ramification or the specifications of the driveway and everything like that. So we're okay on that, but it's just a matter of, trying to get the trees out. I don't want to have to worry about it going down the road, and I mean, the sewer line's going to have to be done anyway. I just, that's what we're asking for, to be able to remove these trees in our front. There's three big, I guess you call them heritage trees. One's pointing toward the street, one points to our neighbor's house, and the other one points to us. So those are the three trees that we have, and that's what we're asking for consideration.
And we also have letters from our neighbors who live next door to us for years, saying that they don't have an issue with us removing our trees either, considering we have a whole park across the street. I don't think 3 trees is gonna hurt the neighborhood.
have you submitted those letters?
I have them. We have them. Happy to get the letters.
Okay, if you want them to be part of the public record, we need to have them.
Yes,
Copy.
give them copies.
Okay, thank you so much for clarifying that. I'm still not quite sure. Also, if you have a plan for the new, there's nothing in the public record that shows that you have a plan for the trees.
We do.
Sure.
Hi, I'm Mason Hayes. I work for the construction
can
company
read 'em
that's
if you
actually
want, but-
doing the work.
Wait a minute, that needs to be turned on.
Hi, my name's Mason Hayes. I work for Oak Construction, who's doing the work on the Trilling's lot. So we do have a plan for the planting. It's not finalized yet, but I mean, it's pretty close to what we plan on doing. So I don't know if we want it in the record yet or just to see it, but this is not like set in stone yet what we plan on doing. It's our,
Okay, if it's not part of the appeal, or you're not submitting it as part of the appeal, we don't have to see it right now, but anything that you want in the public record is what we need to see right now.
okay. What I'm getting at is that we do have a plan to plant new trees. We just don't know exactly where we want each tree to be planted right now. So we can put this into the record, but I just wanted to make sure it's not like what we're going to be locked into at this moment.
And I think that makes sense, because we're not approving the plan itself, the arborist would, but at least it helps us understand that there is a plan.
Yeah, that's
Because
exactly what I'm trying
it's
to get at.
my belief that based on the code, and maybe Lauren can help us with this, I thought in order for us to consider an appeal that we had to have a planning plan.
Yeah.
No? Okay, Liz is
what
shaking her
we're-
head no.
Just to
But
clarify, what we're here for today is an appeal of the city arborist decision on December 19th. And as part of the code, the reasons for why you think the city arborist made an error is what we're here today to hear. And the commission will proceed based on what we hear today, what we have in the record, and we'll be deciding whether the city arborist made an error in his December 19th decision. That's all this is here. That's all this is about. If there are new plans and new submissions, those would be separate applications. So we're here today for an appeal of the December 19th decision.
Okay. Did you have anything else?
No, did you want this plan?
Yes.
Okay.
Have one copy?
Just one.
Okay, thanks. I can go make copies. Okay, thanks, Liz.
thank you.
It just gives us the sense that you have thought about where trees would go if we say yes to the appeal. So, okay.
But I think we need to hear from Mike, too. Yeah.
Laura, can she also make copies of the letters from the neighbors?
Sure, that would be great.
Yeah, these are two different, thank you.
Yeah, we're actually going slightly out of order that we usually do, because usually in the past, the city arborist has given a report first. So, Mike,
Yeah,
would you
yeah.
like to respond to the Trilling's
Yes.
statements?
So I'll just read my arborist report, if that's okay. The following is a report for the city arborist with regard to the above referenced waiver request as it was a waiver at the time. That is to be heard before the commission on Monday, January 27th, 2025. As per City Code 253-30, a waiver can be requested if the tree permit does not meet the requirements of 253-25, which includes the 7 reasons that the city can issue a tree permit. It differs from an appeal in that by submitting a waiver request, the applicant recognizes that the trees proposed for removal do not qualify for the permit under the code, and an appeal is based on an error in the interpretation or enforcement of the code.
Hey, Mike, I'm sorry, could I, to interrupt, if you want to focus your report on the grounds for your decision, that's what we're interested in, not the difference between the appeal or the waiver request. Thank you.
All right, so my opinion of the waiver should not be granted on these reasons, at least.
We don't care about the waiver anymore. That's kind of a moot point at this
I'm
point.
sorry,
We only care about the appeal of the 3 trees in front. That's the only thing that we need to hear about.
yeah, sorry, my report was written as a waiver at the time, so.
I know. It's a little complicated.
Yeah, I read waiver and, yeah, sorry. The request does not support the intent of the code or the city's goals of preservation, protection, or conservation of the trees as stated in 253-1, subsection A. The request to remove the number 1 tree, which is the 24-inch southern red oak, partly owned by the city, can only be approved by a city arborist upon the authority of the city manager as per 253-14 subsection C. The trees are also currently healthy and do not meet conditions required to issue a tree permit under 253-25A2A. So the applicant has submitted a request to remove 3 heritage trees. They are southern red oaks along the front left of the property. Number 1 is 24 inches, number 2 is 27 inches, and number 3 is 26 inches, totaling 77 inches of removal. Again, the 3 heritage trees are among the healthiest on the property with no signs of disease or decline, as well as southern red oaks being a valuable member of our native canopy in Sussex County and support many homes to wildlife. The concern for heavy traffic over the routes, as stated in their appeal, should be negated by laying down mats to protect the roots as well as traffic along the right side of the property. Deep root fertilization will be sufficient enough to mitigate any minor damage to roots and promote healthy growth. Also, to mention that this property has been approved for the removal of 2 heritage trees in the back as per the approval date of the permit, which I have here. The date was 12/30/2024. The trees removed were both southern red oaks, measuring 29 inches and 24 inches. The trees were removed due to lack of canopy from over pruning and decline in health and overall health, leading to many dead branches. Which I would like to add to they were the closest to the foundation, which didn't. The remaining trees are quite far back, leading to a very sizable, not huge backyard, but there is room for expansion along the back of the property from the foundation.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Does anyone have questions for Mike?
I would like to hear from, if there's others before I start asking questions, I think. I don't know if,
Jeff, would you like to make a comment?
Jeff Meredith, certified arborist, Sussex Tree, Save a Tree. At present time, those trees are in very good health. And my question is, why can't, since it's going to be plastic put in where the clay basically was tubing, and can it put around to the right side or to the left? Because roots can't go through that.
right,
So, and they got to dig it anyway. So, as long as they're out of the root base and it's already got orange plastic around the trees, as far as not to go inside, I think the trees will be fine.
Okay, are you speaking against the appeal?
Correct.
Because you think there are alternate ways of protecting the sewer system from
Absolutely. Yes, there is.
the tree roots?
Yep.
Okay,
I mean, the plastic pipe, the new piping can go to the right side. That's where I'd put it. Even though he has to put in a propane tank or whatever, you still have room.
okay.
You don't have to take the trees down.
And anything else?
I think that's it.
Okay,
Thank
thank you
you.
so much for your comments.
welcome.
Anyone else have a comment before the commission starts asking questions? Oh, Liz, I'm sorry, I meant to introduce you for,
All right. So Liz Lingo, EOC, formerly City of Rehoboth, board certified master arborist, registered consulting arborist, tree risk assessment qualification. So more of a general thing about education. I've spent 10 years dealing with trees and sewer pipes on a weekly basis, probably, including our entire city water and sewer department. So we have done a lot of work. And when you have trees within 100 feet of pipes, you're gonna have an old terracotta or any pipe that has a tiny little opening, that root will get in. So the roots only in really, really rare circumstances actually break the pipes themselves. For that, they would have to wrap around it and crush it, and that's just not how tree roots grow. Seen maybe once or twice where a root grew next to a pipe and as it expanded over years did push a pipe out of joint. That's not the scenario we're talking about. We're talking about original terracotta like the rest of Rehoboth. Some of the luckier people might have cast iron like my parents that lasts for 100 years. But I think it's an important educational thing to note that trees themselves, the roots, are not the cause of the problem. It's the old terracotta, right? And so when they are replaced with PVC, those problems should be minimized, right? So as long as there's no leak in the PVC, the tree roots aren't going to go and try and infiltrate that because they won't even know it's there. In terms of actually repairing the pipes, we, the city and other people, we do a lot of work with trenchless. So where you're just pits and replacing from the pits, pipe bursting. There's also another method called cured in place, where basically they pour a new pipe inside the old one. I mean, I'm not a plumber. I know these are methods until you really get down there and scope it at the end of the day. I think it's hard to say what you can and can't do. It's always been the city's policy that in order to permit tree removal permits, that you have to have, if it's predicated by, all right, your new living room is going on top of the tree. Well, the city needs that plan and permit for the new living room. And so generally with a sewer repair or a sidewalk replacement or a new driveway or anything, the city needs that permit, and then everything is issued together, right? So if they were having a new driveway put in and there was a tree in the middle of it, those permits are issued together. So just to keep in mind the procedure, and a little bit of education on tree and sewer pipes since I've spent a lot of time with it. That's it. Thank you.
Wait, Liz,
Sure.
Did you make a decision on these 3 trees in the front?
I don't want to misspeak on this. Possibly, but without pulling out the records, I'm not sure if we ever made a decision on it officially. So I left that, it was during the transition, I left that to Mike because I was like, I'm not going to make a decision that somebody else has to deal with.
Got it.
So left that up to him.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else want to comment? Do my colleagues on the commission have questions?
Yeah, I do, and I don't know if the gentleman from O Construction can help answer this, or if anybody else knows, but isn't there also, I mean, I like that Sussex Tree has indicated there can be curves made around the trees. I mean, because I'm in a house that was renovated where the house was originally built in 1933, and we actually still have our terracotta pipe. We got lucky because we had an oak above it. The oak died. It never got into the pipe. But we also have a garage apartment where our sewer line does make a turn to connect the two together. So, but, you know, I heard Liz in the past talk about, is it called air spading or whatever, where you're going to, okay, so if you wanted to go straight, that's an option too, correct? With, you know, air spading around the roots to get to the old pipe and replace the new pipe. So I think there are a lot of options to get around those. I guess my other question, though, is you mentioned that you want to be able to bury a propane tank, and your only spot for that is where the driveway is. Can you, and I don't know the answer to this, can you have a buried propane tank where you then have a driveway above it? I don't know the answer to that. And I don't know if anybody is available to speak to that.
I think that's kind of beyond what
Well,
we
part
have
of
to
their,
decide.
I know, but part of their request is that they're moving, they want to be able to move the driveway. The only place they have to move the driveway, I don't know if you went by the lot, but really, I think the only place to move the driveway, although if it shifts a little bit, I don't know if there's enough room on the side. I don't know the rules with how close a propane tank can be to the property line. That's something that I don't know. I don't know if there's any,
I believe it's 10 feet from the property line. I don't know if there's any real requirements, but typically so we use porous propane. They're a typical propane company, and they usually like to stay at least 10 feet away from a property line. I've heard of propane tanks in driveways, but it's not recommended at all in case there's any issues with the tank. Digging it up would basically ruin your whole entire driveway.
Well, digging it up out of the front yard is going to ruin your whole entire front yard, too, so.
But I mean, a driveway is more
Wherever your
expensive.
buried propane tank is, if you have a problem and they have to dig it up, it's going to ruin wherever. We have one in our backyard, and if they ever had to dig it up, it would ruin our backyard. So, but I'm just not sure. I mean, Mary Ellen, I don't know if you know by our code or by the construction code what those rules are.
Excuse me. I do not, but I could see whether one of our guys is available to ask the question.
Yeah, I think that would be good to know, because I don't know if they're in the construction plans that were approved, if that move of the driveway was already approved, or if that's something that's being considered now after the renovation plans have been approved.
The original plans had the driveway on the right side of the lot, so where it was originally. This is to move it to the left side of the lot with the trees
Okay.
gone.
So that hasn't actually been approved yet?
Not yet.
Okay. Because I guess when I look, it would seem like there's room in the back, too, to put the propane if the shed is moved. I don't know if that's still part of the plan to move the shed.
Well, initially,
Yeah.
when we did the plan,
You need it.
we're like, well, like I said, we
Use the
wanted,
microphone,
we
please.
wanted to tear the house down and then reshift everything. Well, that didn't happen because of the trees. So
Thank you.
the plan came up was, can we shift the shed into the corner and open up the back lot more? But there's all these trees back there, and that was a no after
Okay.
The arborist came out and said, no, okay, so we can't do anything in the back because of the trees, and in the back toward the fence to move the shed. So the only possible thing was to put the tank out front, and the easiest position was to put it over where the driveway is, shift the driveway over to the left side. We figured we had to get the sewer done anyway, and there wasn't an issue with the trees, and we just don't have the room. You know what I mean? I don't think because the water line's coming right down in the front too, so you can't, you can't put a driveway on top of the shift it too far. It's just we don't have enough room. We're limited, what the city says we're allowed to do, and we're just trying to stay within the confines of that.
In the documents we originally had, part of the request was to move that shed. That's no longer.
Yeah, the shed stayed exact. It's where it is. That came out of it. We can't move. We knew we couldn't move
Okay.
the shed. We filed to have the city to have everything go forward because we're sitting in limbo. So we know we can't tear the house down. We said this is what we're going to do on the remodel. We'll bring it to the city and see what we can do as far as removing the trees to be able to do the sewer line and shift the driveway. If we can't shift the driveway all the way to the left, then we have to kind of shift it over toward the middle of the property, but you only can go so far, going this way toward the water lines and everything else. Because my understanding is to bury the propane tank, you have to stay away like 10 feet from the next neighbor and everything. You have to be so far back from the front easement, and we just don't have anywhere else to go with burying a propane tank. So that's why we put that all together to get everything moving.
So I see Corey has come in. Maybe Corey can tell us what the rules are with the propane tanks.
Sure. Corey Shingo, Building Inspector.
Thank you.
Propane comes in one of two forms here in Rehoboth, above ground and below ground. Usually the above ground tanks are maximum, they do it by gallons. So 125, 225 gallons, they can go right up to the property line. They can go right next to a house. When it comes to underground, you're right, you have to stay 10 feet away from a property line and 10 feet away from a building. We go by the NFPA 58, which governs liquid petroleum gas, which is propane. You don't put them in driveways. Well, if you have an underground tank, you're going to see a lid, and that's where they have to provide access to fill it. If it's going to be above ground and there's any chance of vehicular collision to it, you have to put protection up, usually in the form of a bollard or something like that. Those are usually if they're in a garage or something like that. So you would never put a propane tank, an underground propane tank, in a driveway or in the path where a vehicle would run over it, because you'd have the lid exposed. So if you were to put in an underground propane tank, the two things that we would look out for as far as clearances go for these underground tanks is 10 feet from the actual house, not a structure like a front porch or a patio or something like that, but from a building and then from the lot line, whether it be from the city lot line where the city right-of-way is or the neighboring lot line. And then the code is silent on trees. So, in the NFPA 58. So we generally work with the tree company if there's no trees present to say, there's going to be an underground propane tank here. They usually put it with yellow tags to show where gas lines are going to run underground, and then you don't plant a tree near there. And if there's existing trees, then they work with the city arborist to say, we need to dig a hole this big, this deep, and how would that impact the tree roots? And so that's more of a collaborative
And
teamwork.
I can't tell on these drawings where the existing sewer line is going versus the water line. So I can't tell because I wouldn't think you would put a propane tank. You're obviously not going to put a propane tank on top of your water line. You're not going to put a propane tank on top of your sewer line either. And what would be the normal offsets from those?
Well, with your water and sewer, when they're underground, you have two options. If they're going to do a two-trench, then they have to be a minimum of 5 feet away from potable, drinkable water in your sewer. If they're going to be in one trench, then they can be on top, but then the water has to be a foot above. When it comes to the gas lines, that's normally the size of how, we in construction, there's a 3-foot over dig. So that's just the claws of the excavator.
Right.
You don't want to go anywhere near in that realm. So I would say 3 feet and 3 feet to be safe on both sides of a water line. So if they go to dig it with a trench, it's a safe practice in that regard. You could say 5 feet as well, but generally we let the gas company make that call when they're putting the gas lines in. They stake out where the water and sewer lines are, and then they don't. We don't normally have instances where they're that close to a water and sewer line.
Okay.
Any other questions for me?
If you, looking at this Exhibit A, I know we're just calling you in on the fly. Can you see any logical places to put an underground tank or an above-ground tank?
I believe they had above ground prior, and I remember speaking with the contractor after they had to shut it off and cap off the existing lines. Those were above ground tanks, and they were located, if memory serves, in the back near where the HVAC units show. In that, this shows the proposed addition. So prior to this proposed addition, they were in the back right corner of the house, where the above ground tanks were, if memory serves. So if you're asking where they could be, again, the NFPA 58 would just state if they're above ground and they're under a certain limit as far as the gallon goes, they can go right next to the house. If they want to put it below ground, they would just show it on the survey, or we'd go out there before they actually dug with a can of spray paint, basically in a tape measure, just to make sure, field verify that it's 10 feet from the proposed addition and then 10 feet from a lot line. There's some trees in the back here, but there's some area in the backyard that they could get it there. And then it depends on how much propane they need. Usually the tankless water heaters are the ones that suck up the gas as much because they use so much of it to heat the water.
Thank you so much for your expertise. We really appreciate it.
Sure.
See, I think,
If there's no more questions,
go back
okay,
to
thank
work.
you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Just to give a little more details of what he said about the tank size, we proposed to do a 325-gallon tank because their heating actually is propane. So I don't know, I think that was over the amount that could be above ground, so I think it has to be buried.
Okay, is 325 too much for above ground? Just to give people alternatives. It's not really,
They could do 2 tanks. If it's usually too much, you could do 2 tanks, and that's 125, 125, 250. If there needs to be more, then yeah, we would check it on the tables that we would look at, and then they would submit how much they want, how the tank size, the container size, I should say, and then we'd look at that, and then if it's Poors or Suburban or Chagrin, whoever it is, they would do the installation.
But him saying 325 is generally going to go below ground.
If it's in one tank, generally speaking, yes.
Would you ever see a combination of above and below?
I haven't here in Rehoboth, no.
Okay,
No.
okay, thank you.
so if they want 325, is their only alternative below ground?
I'd have to double check the tables before I give you a specific answer on that.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Can I say something?
Sure.
I'm trying to just, my hearing's not the greatest, but I'm just trying to understand the issue with the propane. Before we had one unit, a downstairs heating unit is why we had propane above ground. And with the remodel, we are putting in state-of-the-art gas pack backups upstairs, downstairs, and with tankless hot water system, which is going to increase what we're going to need. But the whole thing too was the bottles before was sit by the shed is where we had them. It's before, and then we had them removed because we thought we were going to remove the shed. But the main thing of burying the tank is not to have the bottles above ground. That is a safety issue. We're going to have more propane flowing, and that is the reason why we wanted the tank buried, because I know there was going to be an increase, and there's going to be increase in size, and I don't want bottles above ground next to my house. I believe that's a safety issue.
Okay.
Having bottles, above ground like that.
I'm just trying to determine whether you have alternatives to putting them where those trees are. That's all I'm trying to figure out.
I mean,
And
that was my point. I said that's why we moved from the bottles, because we're increasing it, and we wanted it buried. For me, it's safety issues.
Yeah, I got one too.
That was it.
Okay. I think we've heard pretty much all. Anybody else have, Carolyn?
Well, I want to understand which trees have already been approved for removal.
There were 2 in the back.
Which
4 and
numbers are,
13.
4 and 13, so they're already gone.
Yeah.
They're standing as of, I believe, today.
But they're approved to
They are
go.
approved, yes, correct, ma'am. So all that space is open in the back.
Okay.
I also have I guess it's a question for, I don't know if it's for Lauren or for you all. We, as a body, do not have the authority to do anything about tree number 1, is that correct? Because
we haven't even
that's
talked about
a
number 1.
city tree, or partially city tree?
Correct, it is a line tree with the city.
Okay. Could you please explain the status of tree number 1?
As it sits, it is a line tree on the easement with Rehoboth Beach. I have been in contact with our city manager, Taylor Tedder, and who has given written confirmation to myself, I believe it's in your packets, stating that the city does not give permission for the removal on the city side of the line tree.
Okay.
The city side.
On the city's, that means that you can't take that tree out.
Correct. The city's denying that tree,
Okay.
which is the closest tree to the road.
Okay, so of the 3 trees that we're considering under this appeal, one is already not, we don't have control over that tree because that's already been denied by the city manager.
Correct.
So,
And I'm guessing an appeal of that would go to the commissioners?
There's no appeal rate for a city tree,
Okay,
denial of a city tree removal.
okay.
okay, I'm ready to close the public hearing so we can discuss this. Are you ready, Carolyn?
I think so.
Okay. At this time, public comment is, unless you have anything else you want to add, anyone have any further comments? Okay, we're going to close the public portion of this hearing, and then we will continue to discuss this among ourselves, and you're welcome to stay and watch. Marty, do you have any opinions?
Well, yes, I do. I had quite a few before.
You gotta,
Well, what should I do?
you have to talk into the mic.
I thought this was a private session.
No,
Oh, no.
no.
Okay. I'm trying to nail down just exactly what our decision is based on. And it seemed like there were 2 issues, the sewer lines and the propane tank, which were, and so my feeling is that there are methods of digging to replace the sewer line that would spare the tree roots. And according to what I've just heard, there's really only 2 trees that can be removed. Am I correct in that?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, so there will always be 1 tree there, and I don't know how that bears on moving the driveway or not. And as far as the propane tank goes, I thought that you could put it above ground. But I'm not so sure on that now because of other things that have been said. So that is an issue that remains. It's in my mind. I can't make a decision on whether the propane tank is still an issue. That's all I have to say right now.
Carolyn, did you want to?
Yeah, I agree. With basically us not being able to do anything with tree number 1, I'm not sure that these other trees actually provide any benefit to being removed to help with the situation. And I'm not sure, when I look at this, I don't have a good feeling for how much room is actually needed for a buried propane tank. And it would seem to me that somebody from the propane company would need to provide sort of input on whether or not there are other options for the propane tank. I don't think we can tell that here. I mean, it would, knowing the size of my backyard, where we do have a 300-gallon propane tank buried, I'm struggling with whether or not there's enough space in the back to put one in. And if there isn't currently, there might be the ability to have, basically to apply for an additional tree removal permit for a smaller tree, to be able to bury that and to let these heritage trees stand. I mean, I just think that there appear to be options that might provide the relief that the property owner is looking for. But I can't tell, because I don't really know how much room is needed to actually bury the propane tank. I mean, we have a very large holly in our backyard that did fine with having the propane tank buried. But I didn't really see the hole before the propane tank went in, so I don't know how much over digging they had to do to get the propane tank in.
Okay. Any other
And I'm not sure that, you know, until today, we didn't know about the propane tank, and I'm not sure that was, I can't tell if that was part of the basis for the original appeal. We did hear that it's possible to get the sewer line, there are options for getting the sewer line to the house. So I'm struggling a little bit.
If it helps, I'd like to just remind you what the code says on, what the authority is for the Parks and Shade Tree Commission on this kind of appeal. For an appeal where there's alleged that there's an error in any decision made by the city arborist, in exercising your authority, you may reverse or affirm, wholly or in part, or you can modify the city arborist decision only if the commission finds that the city arborist decision is contrary to a specific provision of this chapter, not supported by substantial evidence, or is arbitrary or capricious. And the Shade Tree Commission has to set forth its decision in writing within 30 days following this hearing, and has to state your findings and conclusions on which the decision is based. So just make sure we're all oriented here.
Yeah.
I feel your pain. I also have a terracotta pipe that had to be cleaned out and everything, and I do understand that that's a problem. There are other solutions other than taking down the tree, because I'm doing the same thing with my trees. In fact, I would say probably half the houses in Rehoboth, we would be taking out trees every day if we did it because of pipe infiltration. We have old pipes in Rehoboth. Everybody does. And to take out, what you're requesting is to take out 77 inches of heritage trees. These are trees that are important to everyone in Rehoboth, not just the individual homeowner and property owner, but they're part of what makes Rehoboth Rehoboth, is our tree canopy. So we can't do anything about tree number 1, and anything that we would do for the other 2 trees, I don't see any point in taking out the other 2 trees if you can't take out tree number 1, which is closest to the driveway that you're thinking about, and closest to the property line, and probably closest to the sewer line. So to me, the appeal is pretty much made moot by the fact that the tree number 1 cannot be removed. There's no way approving the other 2 trees is going to solve your problem. You're still going to have the problem of tree number 1. And I do understand the problem of the propane tank as well, but that's something that you can work out, I think, with your contractor. And you can apply to take out some of the trees in the back, as Carolyn suggested. If you have, those trees are smaller and I think probably less a part of the canopy than those 3 trees in the front that we were talking about. So at this point, we usually make a decision.
We need a motion.
I know,
Yeah.
but according to Lauren, we don't have to decide for 30 days.
But we have to make a decision in a
Public.
public meeting.
Yeah.
Code just says a written decision has to be issued within 30 days. So.
We've always made the decision right here and now, so we'll go ahead with what we usually do. May I have a motion?
So I believe the correct wording of the motion, and Lauren, if you can make sure I do this right. The motion would be to approve the request for removal of trees number 2 and 3.
I think you have to phrase the motion in terms of the appeal and the decision of the city arborist.
I don't agree to 2 and 3.
So whether,
No.
Neither do I.
correct me if I'm wrong, Lauren, but we should always be doing our motions that are as if the appeal request is approved, and then our vote would be to.
Yep.
Right.
You can frame it that way, but include in your motion the decision of the city arborist.
Okay.
And that's it's in an email.
Just say based on the decision of the city arborist, the city manager.
Well, city manager is only number one. So.
All right, wait a minute. Do we have to make a decision on tree?
Yeah.
So you're making a decision on the
Laura, you have
appeal
to
as a whole.
Laura, use the mic, Laura, or Ann will yell at us.
So the appeal is for all 3 trees, and you can discuss whether or not you affirm or reject the city arborist decision to deny the removal permit for all 3 trees.
Okay, so I move that we approve, or I move that we uphold the city arborist decision to deny removal of all 3 of the trees, tree number 1, 2, and 3, the 3 heritage trees in the front yard.
I second.
Do I need to say anything else?
If you could include the date of that decision.
The decision was dated December 29th, is that right? I'm trying to,
I think it's the 19th.
December 19th. Yes, December 19th. So let me do this again. I move that we uphold the decision of the city arborist denying the removal of the 3 heritage trees in the front yard at 70 Oak Avenue dated December 19th, 2024.
It's Kent.
Kent, sorry, 70, well,
There's
Oh,
a typo in that.
there's a
sorry.
typo.
Yeah.
70 Kent Avenue. Sorry, I live on the other side. 70 Kent Street, dated December 19th, 2024.
I second that motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we uphold the decision of the city arborist in this matter.
Before you make your vote, I would ask that you state the reasons for your vote and the facts that support your conclusion while you make your vote.
Okay. Laura, would you like me to start?
Yes.
I vote aye, that I am supporting the denial. As previously stated, our hands are tied with tree number 1. We do not have the authority to grant that approval. And I believe there are ways around, from a sewer standpoint, I believe there are ways around those trees, either using air spading to go in a straight line or to, go around, and that the use of current materials will essentially prevent the infiltration of the roots in those pipes.
Do we each have to state our reasons
Yes.
for voting? My reasons are
Are you voting?
I'm voting to deny the removal of the trees based on, and to affirm the arborist's previous decision, based on the fact that I think there are alternatives for these sewer line, and that there are I'm sorry, there are also alternatives for the placement of the under the propane tanks.
I concur. I also vote to uphold the city arborist's opinion and deny your appeal, although I do understand the complexities you've faced in this whole project, but I think preserving those 3 trees it can be done without, extreme expense. There are ways of getting around digging up those trees and still getting the home that you wish to have. So we vote unanimously to uphold the city arborist and deny your appeal. Okay, and with that, can we adjourn?
I don't know if the two of you got the minutes Ann sent last
Oh, we
night.
forgot about the minutes.
Yeah, I mean, I know we're doing this way out of order,
Can I
but
have a motion to defer the minutes till next time? Just,
sure,
okay.
yeah. But I move that we defer approval of those minutes until the next meeting.
I second the motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that. And so, Ann, can you please put those on the agenda for next time? Thank you. And with that, we are adjourned.